The following feature presentation is part of the Skywalking Network.
Skywalking through classic Marvel. Skywalking through classic Marvel comics.
Long ago, in a galaxy far, far away, there exists a state of cosmic civil war. A brave alliance of underground freedom fighters has challenged the tyranny and oppression of the awesome galactic empire. This is their story.
That was how Marvel caught readers up in each of their 107 issues back in the vintage era.
Well, speaking of vintage era, I am Richard Wolosky, just getting over a very bad cold, so I'm so sorry that I sound like Froggy from the Little Rascals. But I want to welcome you all to Classic Marvel Star Wars Comics. I am here to take you through these classic stories, share memories of reading the series as a kid, and to get you all caught up with these characters and situations that every Star Wars fan must and should know.
Hello, comic book fans. I am Sarah, and on this particular series, we take you through each issue of the vintage comic series from 1977 through 1986. I am going to give you my new, fresh perspective on these comics since this is the very first time I'm reading them. Now, in this episode of Classic Marvel Star Wars Comics, we will cover the issue number 19, The Ultimate Gamble. But let's catch you up to speed and recap the adventures from issue number 18, The Empire Strikes. In that issue, Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, 3PO, and R2 are in the Falcon when Luke Skywalker suddenly passes out during a Jedi training exercise. They drop out of lightspeed to get him medical help, but run into Imperials who chase the Falcon to a brand new location, the Wheel, which is a huge gambling center in space. The rebels scatter on the Wheel, the Empire is in pursuit, and that's where that previous issue ended.
And in this issue, The Ultimate Gamble, the rebels are split up to avoid being captured by Commander Strom and his legion of Stormtroopers. Luke is still unconscious, and Han and Leia battle troopers until they are apprehended by the Wheel security force. Chewbacca runs into more danger as he is captured and made to fight in the Wheel's gladiatorial pits. Oh, and we discover Senator Greyshade's secret passion.
Not so secret now.
Now, the release date for this issue, The Ultimate Gamble, is October 24th, 1978. So this issue still predates Sarah. And it's written by Archie Goodwin, artwork by Carmine Infantino and Bob Wiacek. And I sound very uncertain about that because as we go along, I don't think these are the artists on this issue.
Or they were taking a smoke break this whole issue.
Yeah, they got their interns to do it because this is not representative of their work.
But we'll get into that a little later.
The consulting editor is Jim Shooter, and the cover art is by Carmine Infantino and Bob Wiacek. And the cover art does not match the inside art.
Well, speaking of the cover, every episode we go over the cover of each of these comics, and man, we also put the cover in our Facebook group and asked all of you Facebook group people, our Skywalkers, to comment on the cover, and man, did you have some awesome comments.
You did. Now, I can say for me, this cover did nothing for me as a kid. Absolutely nothing. And I was confused by why Red Skull was smack dab in the middle of the cover. Because at the same time, I was also reading Captain America. So I thought, okay, this must be some kind of a crossover. Will we see Captain America in this issue? In the middle, we have a Red Skull for some reason. And there's the wheel that goes around the Red Skull. Mm-hmm. And all around the wheel, we see 3PO's disembodied head and Luke's head. And on the bottom, we see Leia, Han, and Chewbacca.
Yeah, and Leia and Han, completely disembodied heads. Like, there's no necks, there's no shoulders. It's just, like, literally your head.
They're floating heads, yeah.
Yeah.
And it looks like Han is being chewed out by Leia and Chewbacca. And he's saying, hey, you know what? I didn't put Red Skull in there. He doesn't even show up in this story. Don't blame me.
Yeah, so for me, this cover, I feel like this is the worst cover I've seen on a Star Wars Marvel comic book so far. Like, I haven't seen all of them, obviously, but Yeah, it's just really bad. And even, you know how we always talk about the composition of the whole photo and how usually there's like a focal point and then you have like lines or something leading to that focal point leading your eye. Well, this cover is like completely opposite of that. Yes, I think the focal point is supposed to be the red skull, which is in the middle of the wheel here, but the whole thing is like listing to the left. Like it's not even in the middle.
Right.
All the heads, all the wheel, everything is like to the left. And there's all this, not a lot of blank space on the right, but it just seems off balance somehow. Like you want to tilt the whole comic book to the left. So, yeah. And these floating heads are terrible and they have pretty much no likeness to the actual characters themselves, like Luke, Han, and Leia. And our Facebook group had they really equated this with a completely other franchise.
Now, Brian Babcock says, Wheel of Death sounds like a game show. Clover Nikon says, Chewie looks angry with Han. Yeah, he does. And once again, Han saying, I don't know where Red Skull came from. Stop looking at me. Also, looks like Captain America's Red Skull. See, there you go.
Yes.
Is wearing... Okay, he says, looks like Captain America's Red Skull is wearing Doc Brown's mind reader from Back to the Future.
Oh,
you know what? That big
yeah.
colander thing Doc Brown was wearing?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yep.
All right, Heather Hunt says, Luke looks like He-Man.
Yes.
He always looks like He-Man.
We got a lot of those. Garrett Sessions says, it's really hard to draw Chewbacca, isn't it? Aww. And
I think there needs to be some kind of a sarcastic overtone with that.
yes.
Because, yeah, it doesn't get until, like, it takes them till, like, 104 issues to finally draw Chewbacca correctly.
Oh my gosh.
Out of 106 issues,
Wow.
107 issues.
All right, Bill Medea makes some great points. He says, it's an interesting design that immediately conveys there's danger on this station. The floating heads is a bit weird, and that blockade runner looks like it's made out of balloons. Also, by this time...
You know what? I didn't even know that was a blockade runner.
No, I thought
Not
it
at all.
was Luke's fist. I totally thought that was Luke's fist. Look at that. Right next to Luke's head.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
so tubular.
Yeah. All right. And Bill Medea goes on. He says, also, by this time, the likenesses should be a lot better, especially C-3PO. Is he wearing goggles? Oh, the top of the skull doesn't line up with the rest. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The top of the skull doesn't line up with the rest of the actual skull. Look at that. It's
Come on,
terrible.
Bob Wiacek and Carmine Infantino.
Yeah.
You can do better than
This
this.
is like the worst cover ever. Oh, okay. And then there's just a lot of comments.
Martin Keeler says Chewie's hairstyle may have been the ultimate gamble, and it didn't pay off.
Oh. Michael Cannon says, floating heads should be a sign that this issue is going to be a tad odd. Like holiday special odd.
Oh, I wished.
And 3PO has a look like, why am I here? Oh, wow. There's so many He-Man comments. Oh, and my mom, Norma Heitman, had something fun to say. She says, we can't wrap our heads around this.
Yeah, I think the most common denominator was a He-Man equation.
Yes, Tati Perez posted a picture of a He-Man comic and then, Luke and the skull close up. Oh, yeah, the He-Man and his nemesis.
Yeah, Skeletor.
Skeletor, thank you.
Oh.
Yes. And so Tati is saying, this cover is keeping me busy. She posted a bunch of different,
You know what? I didn't
pictures.
even get that. Luke and Skeletor.
Oh, yeah.
Luke
totally.
and Red Skull and He-Man and Skeletor.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's totally, yeah.
Oh, I feel like I should be sitting in a corner right now in a timeout.
Why?
Why didn't I
Oh,
get
because you
that?
didn't get it?
Yeah. I'm going to put myself in a timeout.
Wow, this cover.
All right. Well, thank you, Skywalkers, for weighing in on that cover. Always so much fun.
And I do want to tell you, Skywalkers, if you guys are just listening to this and aren't looking at us on YouTube right now, just be sure to go to our show notes and you'll see the cover, the picture of the cover, so you can know what we're talking about. It's pretty bad.
You know, they say ultimate gamble so many times in this issue. I think we need like a buzzer or a bell.
Ooh, or a drinking game. How about that? Let's go to Food and Wine.
Okay, so
Bring the comic.
Every time we see the ultimate gamble,
Yes.
or we read the ultimate gamble words,
Yeah.
we need a sound effect,
Oh, okay.
like
Ooh.
a can of beer opening or bubbles.
I like the can of beer.
Now, Sarah, what are your initial thoughts on this issue number 19, The Ultimate Gamble?
there was a part of this where, the Stormtroopers are taking over the wheel, right? And this is the first time because previously the Empire has kept off the wheel because the wheel makes a ton of taxes or money for the Empire. Yeah, exactly. Right?
Yeah.
And that was like kind of their bargain.
A lot of the Empire's shipyards were being funded from the profits and taxation of the wheel.
Right. So here you see the Stormtroopers trying to take over, but we get this, major panel where the wheel soldiers, who look like Green Army men.
From Toy Story.
Yes.
Exactly like them.
Yeah, they take over from the Stormtroopers. They have the high ground. So I thought that was fun to see. And I feel like this entire comic is a big, huge wind-up for a third and final act.
The ultimate gamble?
Yes. Where we finally see Chewie pitted against...
Oh, spoiler.
I won't say it. I won't say it yet. I won't. This particular episode was about setting all the chess pieces in position and to get ready for the checkmate of the next comic. So my initial thoughts were definitely more of a wind-up, and also, wow, the artwork was really bad.
Yeah. And you know what? The last, 18 episodes of classic Marvel Star Wars comics, you and Randy would always tell me, Rich, you're reading way too much into this. There's no foreshadowing of the future Star Wars movies.
Right.
But yet there is, because once again, we're dealing with taxation.
Oh, yeah?
Because that's how the Empire is being funded, because there's so much money coming into the wheel, and the Empire can tax them and build more Star Destroyers. So yeah, there's been taxations in Star Wars since 1978, okay? All right. Get that off my chest. You know what? I feel so much better now.
Oh, good.
I feel like this cold is being lifted off my shoulders.
Okay.
All I gotta do is rant about taxation and I'm good.
Yeah.
Now, I like the fact that this story had many different levels to it, but they do spend too many pages recapping what happened in the last issue, which is what you have to do with kids.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you there, but we'll get there.
Okay,
we'll get there.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
And if people are just picking up this comic for the first time, it's like, oh, I'm so lost. What is with this wheel, and why are the rebels being chased by stormtroopers on this thing that's not a Death Star, and who's Senator Greyshade? They want to be able to catch new readers up, which I get. I just think they spent way too much time recapping the last issue, The Empire Strikes.
Okay.
Now, the artists, like we were just saying, credited are Carmine Infantino and Bob Wiacek, but no. Once again, this I gotta do a deep dig research on this, because this is so not them.
You are going to do?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Because this is the worst artwork I've seen in 19 issues.
Right.
It's been a year at this point, a year plus, and Star Wars has been out. Why does Chewbacca still look like a Sasquatch from Bionic Man? Why does R2-D2 look like a bootleg action figure?
It's terrible.
Stormtroopers look like they have nuts stored in their cheeks.
Yes. Oh my, and they're not even like same looking. Like there's so many different
designs in every panel are so different. It's like, okay, in 1978 we had Stormtroopers and TIE fighter pilots, and that was it.
Yeah.
But every panel the troopers look different. Like we need someone to draw panel 8 through 15. Ted, you're not doing anything. Put the coffee pot down and come on over.
Yeah.
All right, with that, let's get into the story, because this is going to be a fun one.
Yeah. Okay. So this particular issue picks up where the last issue left off. Stormtroopers have cornered R2. 3PO is holding Luke, with his buff, musculature, and Luke is still unconscious. Musculature? No, I couldn't think of the word. 3PO doesn't have muscles, but he's got, I don't know. He was the superhero in the last episode.
He's got load lifters.
Yeah, there you go. Well, Luke is still unconscious after he saw something in the Force while he was meditating. He shouted, "No!" and then went catatonic. And then, here we go. So, a stormtrooper shouts, "They're one of the rebels we're after! Vaporize him and the droids!"
All right, now, when has a stormtrooper ever said vaporize? And can their blasters even vaporize?
Well,
they put a big hole in you.
Yeah, so
in Star Trek is where they vaporize you, right?
Right. But I think what he means is, he can vaporize certain sections of you. Isn't that what blast marks do?
No, they just put a big burn mark hole in you.
Right, but that's vaporizing that particular area.
Yeah, but vaporize is like vaporize, you just disappear.
Well, I beg
It's
to
like
differ.
it's like when
You can-
Thanos snaps, you
I know,
vaporize.
but you can vaporize like one little section. You can vaporize a finger, right? It doesn't have to be your whole body.
Yeah, I'm gonna vehemently argue with you about this one.
Well, you can't even
Vehemently.
say that word, so I'm not going to take
I got a
that.
stuffed nose, okay?
What are you going to do?
I'm gonna vehemently. Even when I didn't have a stuffed nose, I couldn't say that word.
Vehemently?
That's the one.
That one?
All right, now, just as the troopers start firing, a blast door comes out of nowhere and separates them.
Well, thank you, Blastdoor. That was very handy.
And a stormtrooper says, "What? Some kind of barrier coming down between us?" And this is hysterical. 3PO replies from behind the barrier, "It's a containment wall to seal off damaged sections." How thoughtful of 3PO to fill in the trooper as to what this wall is.
Yeah, although
and what it does.
I don't think he was informing the trooper of that. I think he was informing us, the readers, who he seemed to
but
know.
he couldn't see us, the readers. He was talking to the stormtroopers, and via the stormtroopers, we get that information as well. But if you take that out of it,
Yeah,
we're good. We know what door comes down
yeah.
out of nowhere.
No, it's a Blastdoor ex machina.
There you go. However, the blast points, they bounce off the wall and start ricocheting, and each blast hits all the troopers.
Yep.
Think of the scene in Guardians of the Galaxy when Yondu sends his arrow out and kills that field full of people. It's just like that.
Cut to Greyshade, the senator of the wheel. Now, he only wants one thing, and that is finding his top adversary in the Senate, Princess Leia. He's watching Leia on a security monitor as she and Han are in a standoff with the stormtroopers. And Leia says, "Remind me to compliment you on your choice of sanctuaries, Mr. Solo."
All right, just stop. This is like page 2. There's so many stumbling blocks. Mr. Solo.
Oh my god.
Now, these next few panels go over exposition as told in the last issue about Luke falling unconscious during his meditation, the Falcon crew being framed for an attack on Imperial ship, and getting to the wheel.
Okay, so I actually thought that this was a very good exposition, as I had forgotten some of the plot points of the previous episode, and these few panels just brought that whole previous issue rushing back, and I really appreciated this recap.
Yeah,
Now-
this is just one example, but there's many more to come.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, this particular recap I appreciated, and it helped me to, like, get back into the comic.
And you know what? Mission accomplished.
Right.
Because that was their intention, to fill you in on what happened in the last comic.
And these
Perfect.
and these comics come out monthly, right?
Right.
So, like, yeah, and it's been about a month, I think, since we done our last
Yeah,
one.
I know.
So,
It's gone from a year and a half to doing Classic
Yeah.
Marvel to every month.
woo!
But what they should do is do like a Star Wars crawl with the recap. But, kids don't want to read. I wouldn't have read it.
No.
I want to look at the pictures.
Yeah, reading.
Yeah. So apparently Archie Goodwin is a smarter man than me. I'm not going to argue about that. Now, the following pages really gets confusing with space and time. So everyone take a knee, grab a seat, grab a beverage, because this is going to take a while.
All right.
Now, we see the wheel security force that once again look like the green army men from Toy Story.
Yep.
They're thanking the troopers for detaining the interlopers. Interlopers? The troopers haven't caught anybody. Last we saw them, they were being blasted by Han and Leia. And the wide-faced trooper in the foreground is looking right at the reader as if he's trying to make sense of all of this. Go ahead and pull that up and show the Sky Tubers.
Okay.
And it looks like he's storing nuts for the winter in his cheeks. Look at that.
Oh my god.
All right, we're showing the Sky Tubers.
Wow.
Look at that. He's looking right at the reader going, I don't know what to make out of this. Now, Army Man number 1 stands on the upper level, and he says to the troopers, if there's a misunderstanding, why compound it? Particularly from a weak defensive position.
That was awesome.
Why would he say that? The troopers aren't posing a threat to the Green Army men.
Well, apparently they are, because the army men are like the top
Right.
guys on the station with security.
But at this point, the troopers are all getting blasted by Han and Leia.
That's true. But yeah, so
Go on.
I don't know. It's just part of this episode.
Go on. Yeah, try to figure it out.
I
Come
know.
on. You can work through it.
Okay.
Show your work.
For me, that comment made perfect sense, that you're in a weak defensive position, so leave this matter to us and Senator Greyshade, is what the Green Army men are saying. And they kind of take control of the wheel. They take back control from the Stormtroopers.
If the trooper causes a problem, points to the blaster, then I can see the Green Army men being so defensive.
Right.
But the trooper's like, hey, we're just standing here looking at the readers, looking for answers. Now, the next panel shows Leia saying to Han about Greyshade. You read this part in Leia's voice.
All right. He's the wheel administrator, Han? I know him from my Senate days. He's utterly corrupt.
And Han makes a quippy, obviously my kind of guy remark. Now, okay, explain to me where they are. Because a second ago, they were backed into a corner.
Were they?
Yeah, and now we see a very tight shot of Leia's head on Han's shoulder, and Han, his face is like totally bloated.
Now, is this Han? Because I don't see no Han there.
I would guess so. You wouldn't know by the bloated look in his face.
You know what he looks like? He looks like the Joker.
He does look like the Joker,
Look at that.
Yes.
Look at his eyebrows. That's like crazy pants.
And then the next panel shows the Green Army men apprehending Han and Leia. So within 4 panels, the story jumps all over space and time, because where Han and Leia are not where they were a couple of panels ago.
Yeah, I think the panels indeed are kind of making time go a little faster because, okay, well, now we need to wrap up Han and Leia's story because then we have to get to Chewie and then we have to get to 3PO. And so,
I was looking at it a little bit too literally, and that was my mistake. And come on, look at Han. He's never looked less like Harrison Ford in this issue.
He looks like the Joker.
Looks like if the Joker had poison oak in his face.
Yep, it's bloated.
Yep.
Yep.
And I've just given up on Chewbacca.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now, speaking of Chewbacca.
Yeah, let's go. Let's see what's happening to him.
We cut to Chewie.
Yay.
I think it's Chewie.
Well,
I don't know.
Not
and
sure.
he's sneaking around the wheel.
Hold on. There's a Chewie butt.
Oh, my goodness.
How do you see that?
Yep. Okay. I now have a new favorite panel.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's sneaking around the wheel, and there is a great panel of him inching along a narrow edge.
Yeah.
Right above a stormtrooper, and the stormtrooper looks like a stormtrooper in this one and only panel. But this is something you would see in like an 80s sitcom where someone's trying to sneak on a windowsill.
Right.
And no one on the
No
other
one
side
sees
can ever see him.
Well, you know what? Chewie is helped out by the fact that the stormtroopers are wearing helmets.
Well,
and in helmets, you really can't see too much.
No, you can see right directly in front of you, and that's it. Now, Chewie enters the casino level, and it looks a lot like Canto Bight. And the narration reads, "The city has every conceivable luxury and facility a discerning visitor might require, devoted to pleasure, specifically the pleasure of gambling." Yeah, thought that was going to go a whole different direction.
Devoted to pleasure. Whoa. Yeah.
Now, I like the fact that they're trying to include some cantina creatures in this. Like right here, you see a Tals. That's the Muftak character. And they tried to draw a Bith. They just didn't succeed. Not in any stretch of the imagination.
No. Well, they got the
accurate?
wrong mouth. So it's the mouth that's really messed up. It's like a person's mouth, whereas a Bith just has like a little hole, right? It's got a little... Yeah. So it's totally
you know what?
messed up.
They tried. I'll give them that.
The interns tried.
Now, it's not long before Chewie is approached by security since his ID is not registering, and he's asked to come with them. And the narration reads, "Anyone may make a recommendation to a Wookiee. The difficulty, of course, is getting him to go along with it." So Chewie's just going all Wookiee on them and tossing them aside and whapping them in the chest with a whack and a rarg and a wurf.
Yeah, so he attacks the guards, but then a green, scaly, fish-like bouncer steps in, and, oh man, it's on.
It's definitely on.
Yeah, now the other patrons are starting to wager on the outcome, and before this fight goes on too long, Chewie throws the green alien, and what is he again? What kind of alien?
It's a Mandalorian.
Oh, okay. And he throws him out the window.
Not to get confused with Mandalorian.
No.
Mandalorian.
Mandalorian, okay.
Yeah. When I first read it, I thought I read Mandalorian. I got really excited.
Wow. So is that what's happening in this panel? He's throwing him out a window?
Yes.
I did not understand what was happening.
Yeah. Chewie says, game is on, and throws this guy right outside the window.
Okay, because it looks like he had not taken off his arms, but it looked like he had taken off his legs, because the way they depict this alien being thrown out the window is that they have his torso being thrown, and then his legs are just a stream of like movement lines. So it looks like his legs are gone. So that's kind of the problem with action in comics. Unless it's done really well, I get confused very easily. Like, I was just reading, I'm going into the Marvel comics, and I was reading a Mighty Thor comic from 2015 or 2016, and she was fighting the big ice giants, and they're so big, and they would just depict her throwing her hammer at them, and then, you know, like in Family Circus where they have the little lines where
Billy goes
where
into
the Billy goes
house and goes through the whole yard, and and
you can see where he's been. Well, they did that with her hammer, but not very well. So the lines weren't very well defined, and you couldn't tell what part of the ice giant she was hitting, and it got so confusing that I had to put the comic away because it got so frustrating. I was trying to figure it out.
It was even really confusing when the hammer flew by Jeffy and Billy and Dolly and PJ. I'm trying to fit more Family Circus references into this show.
I don't remember their names, but I'm sure I figured that's what you were referencing.
Yeah.
I love it.
I think it's the first time we've ever referred to the Family Circus, one of the best comics of all time.
Amazing. It was always my favorite.
YouTubers, who's with me?
I'm with you.
Yahoo! Okay.
So I just had a problem with that, like, not understanding what was happening. But let's move on, because you'll explain what's happening.
Yes. Just then, Chewie is brought down by the Green Army men, and now that they have such a fierce fighting machine like a Wookiee, they bring him to the gladiatorial pit for what is known as the Ultimate Gamble. All right, now we cut to Leia, who is filling Greyshade in on the Imperial conspiracy, where the Imperials are hijacking profits from the wheels and blaming it on the Rebel Alliance. And just then, Commander Strom storms in. I just wanted to say those two words together, Strom and Storms. Strom storms in and threatens to execute Greyshade for being associated with a Rebel leader.
Uh-oh.
And a blast comes out of nowhere. Things come out of nowhere in this issue.
Yes.
And knocks the blaster out of Strom's hands.
Right.
And then Greyshade says to Strom, "Hey, let's you and I talk right over here. Let's have all of our droids and captors and princesses. You stay in the other room. Me and Strom, we're gonna have a few words." And what Greyshade is saying is that, hey, he's willing to help the Empire take over the wheel. He just wants one thing. One thing and one thing only.
What would that be?
His secret passion. Princess Leia.
Wow.
All right, the story then cuts over to the wheel's doctor, who is assessing Luke's condition. And she's confused since Luke isn't registered as a guest on the wheel. So where did this guy come from? And R2 and 3PO are just outside, but they have their own problems. They've been approached by a Green Army man who says that someone named Han Solo just pawned them off for a gambling stake.
Now this is really funny. How I was thinking of the logistics of this. Like, so Han Solo is nowhere near them.
No,
and yet
he somehow is down on the casino floors gambling.
Right.
I don't know how he got there or why he got there, because we just had seen that he was captured with Leia.
Yeah, exactly. So now he's on the casino floor and he says, "Oh, hey, I got 2 droids. You just find them on the wheel and use it as my gambling stake." And they took his word on that, which I find weird. Like, it's not like he had them with him to turn them in. It's just so random. So these Green Army men had to go and find his droids, which doesn't make any sense to me.
Now, do you think 3PO had flashbacks in Return of the Jedi when Luke gave them away to Jabba the Hutt? So no wonder these droids have had so many masters. They keep getting given away or sold or forgotten under a tarp.
Poor things.
Yeah, no wonder 3PO is just a jittery mess.
Wow.
Yeah, I think the droids and Rey should get together for a support group.
Yeah.
Rey is given away for drinking money. R2 and 3PO are being sold off for a couple of chips. Now, meanwhile...
Meanwhile...
Oh, Randy! Oh, Randy's still, he's very, very busy these days, so
Yes.
we'll do it. Meanwhile,
Chewbacca is down in the gladiatorial pits. He just tossed away a giant green-scaled, 6-armed creature wearing a sumo belt.
that's all. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Oh my gosh. Wow. We see Chewie down in the pits with other victims of past challenges, or should we say, ultimate gambles. The guards are poking and prodding Chewie with long taser sticks. Well, this is kind of stupid. Well, they tell him that he can work off all the fines and damages by continuing to fight in the pits, or he can be sent to the spine mines of Kessel.
Say what?
Yes!
Say what?
It's not the spice mines. It's the spine mines.
Oh, typo.
Yep. There's a total typo here. So the guards go, not much of a choice, is it, Fuzzy?
What about Chewbacca is fuzzy?
I don't know. Wow.
You know what? I gotta go sit back in the corner again because I didn't see that typo.
Oh, no. Yeah, I saw it.
Spines
In fact,
Mines of Kessel.
It made my list over here.
There you
We'll
go.
get to it.
Okay.
So Han is now at the casinos betting everything he has, including the droids, but he's losing miserably. And he goes to get more chips, but the cashier droid tells him that he's over his limit. Han takes what he can and flips the droid 6 credits. And he says,
Treat yourself to a lubrication-soaked tin britches. That way, I know I'm not the only one who took a bath.
what the heck does that mean?
All right, first of all, if he's down so many credits, why is he just giving them away? Second of all, I'm going to forget any inconsistency because of that awesome bit of dialogue. That's good stuff. Come on.
That's
Come
terrible.
on. Admit it. That's awesome.
Wow.
Now, however, the cashier droid suggests one other thing if Han wants some extra credits, and he points to a poster that reads, The Ultimate Gamble.
High risk, high reward. Be a gladiator on the big game.
With nothing else to fall back on, well, Han signed up to be a gladiator. Why not? He's there.
A gladiator in
The Ultimate Gamble. And little does Han know who he has to do battle with. Now we know where the scene in the mud pits came from in Solo: A Star Wars Story.
Oh my gosh! I
Yes.
didn't put that together.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
You know, they were like, you know what? We got this scene in Solo. We don't know where to go with it. Yeah, I'm going to take a break and look at issue Star Wars number 19. I'll be with you in a minute. I just need to clear my head. Saw this and said, I got an idea. This is going to be fantastic. So don't ever tell me that these filmmakers and these storytellers do not read the classic Marvel Star Wars comics.
Right.
Now, just before the story ends, we see Greyshade as he finds out that Han has entered the ultimate gamble and says, now we have to arrange for our smuggler friend to lose the big game just as certainly as we made him lose the others. Oh.
What is he
So
referring to?
Han was losing consistently.
Oh, okay.
So so Greyshade had done something to make Han lose.
Right.
So he's gonna make Han lose the ultimate gamble. So there's our twist ending cliffhanger before the next issue.
Death
Endgame.
game.
I'm sorry, Death Game. Did I just say Endgame?
You did say endgame.
Death Game.
Wow.
So there you go. There you have it. Issue number 19. The Ultimate Gamble. All right, so Sarah, what are your afterthoughts now after going through the issue?
Okay.
Does it change from your initial thoughts?
All right, so I have one thought on the artwork, and despite all the other characters being really terrible, I think that they really drew Greyshade, Senator Greyshade, really well. Like, he looks like a devious kind of villain guy from the 70s with his what are those, sideburns and his mustache. And I think this must have been the artist's favorite character in this issue because he looks pretty much the same and he looks really good. Like his craggy face and his mustache done really well. I think they were just channeling some of these 70s guys from the movies. So
I'll give him 1+ for this issue.
Yes, 1+. And then on a story level, what I liked about this issue is, you know, you saw the Green Army men who are, of course, under Senator, what's his name? Greyshade? Under Senator Greyshade. You saw them stand up to the Stormtroopers and stand up to the Empire. And Senator Greyshade himself also, takes on Commander Strom in his office. So this really sets up Greyshade as a formidable foe as well, because that the Empire tries to fight the rebels and, wins a lot of the time. Well, now Greyshade is like one step above the Empire and is now set up as like, he's going to really be a formidable foe to like Princess Leia and all of our heroes. And he's also, though, relatable because he has this weakness for Princess Leia.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she's going to use that to her advantage.
Yeah, and Leia is his biggest adversary in the Senate.
Right.
So when they're in the Senate, in the meetings, I'm sure he's looking over her, side-eyed. So now he's got the chance to do something about it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, so I think it's a good setup for the next issue, really.
Now, when I read this, I wanted there to be an ultimate gamble.
Yes!
And there was never an ultimate gamble.
No,
so
there wasn't.
They're one issue ahead on their titles.
Yeah.
And the ultimate gamble refers to the battle in the gladiatorial pits against Han and Chewie, spoiler alert, for the next issue.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I like the way that they broke up the characters who each had their own adventure. And I just wish that Luke had more of a part in the story.
Yeah.
Luke is to the ultimate gamble what Kevin Costner is to the Big Chill.
Oh.
We see him, but don't really see him. He's there,
He's dead.
but we just pass right by him.
He's dead the whole
At least we
movie.
get to see Luke's face in this, where Big Chill, we never saw Kevin Costner's face.
No, not at all. All right. Well, you know what? Let's get into our favorite line of dialogue, Richard.
All right, now, my favorite line of dialogue in this issue is when Han goes to the casino cashier droid. Treat yourself to a lubrication-soaked tin britches. That way I know I'm not the only one who took a bath. Come on, that's good stuff. That's good stuff.
I just love how you wrote it in the show notes 3 times as treat yourself to a lubrication soak tin bitches.
We'll need to cut that part out, right?
Yep.
Okay.
That's really funny, and it's kind of funny. My favorite line of dialogue is in the very beginning. 3PO says to R2, "How can one thermocapsuary dehousing assister be so intolerable?" It was just so crazy and weird that it just became my favorite line, because otherwise there was no big lines that stood out to me. And 3PO is basically saying, "Oh, switch off," with more syllables than anyone can ever come up with.
All right, then with that, let's jump over to most non-Star Wars moment or line of dialogue.
Yes, definitely.
Because that's my most non-Star Wars moment line of dialogue in this whole issue.
What 3PO
Yeah, how can
says?
one thermocapsulary dehousing assister be so intolerable? Now, this is a non-Star Wars moment in this issue, and I know the writer was trying to shoehorn in the classic bickering between R2 and 3PO,
Absolutely.
but 3PO would never call R2 intolerable after he just saved their lives,
Yeah.
because R2 was the one who brought down that containment wall, and now 3PO is calling him a thermocapsulary dehousing assister and
Right.
intolerable?
Yeah.
Dude, he just saved your life.
I know. And so context, yes, I do kind of agree with you, but as for a favorite line, that just stood out to me. So that line stood out. But then now I have to get into my most non-Star Wars moment or line of dialogue, and that's when Han says, "Treat yourself to a lubrication-soaked tin, britches."
Boy, we are polar opposites on
Yes,
this issue.
we are. I'm like, why would Han ever say that or give him money after he's lost his last credits? Like, it's just so ridiculous. And he
is.
would have probably just like humphed or something, or just like flipped him the coin. Sorry for the sorry for the loss, or I don't know what he would. He wouldn't say tin britches.
See, we don't always agree on everything.
No. Okay.
All right, now let's talk about our favorite panels.
Yes.
And looking at the Star Wars Omnibus, I'm going to go to page 334 when
Okay.
the laser bolts ricochet off the containment wall and it blasts every trooper in the room.
Okay, so this is very early on in the issue.
Yeah, right over here and right there. Right there, look at that.
Oh.
So one trooper hits, bounces back, and knocks them all down.
That is a pretty cool panel.
That's very, very cool. I think that's just hilarious.
It does remind me of Yondu. Very much so.
Mm-hmm. It's nicely drawn, too.
Right.
You have, 3 troopers and tons of laser blasts hitting everything, including each trooper, and they're all just falling every which direction.
Yeah.
That's some good artistry.
And what page was that? 334?
334 in the omnibus. Now, that's the one I can say that Carmine Infantino and Bob Wiacek stepped in and say, okay, we'll take over this one.
Right. All right. Similarly, on page 341, my favorite panel is the one where you have all the lovely little green army men who are inspecting the Falcon in the docking bay. I just thought I like the coloring of this because both the docking bay and the Falcon are very light, and the little green army men, which are swarming all over the Falcon, really stand out. And I just got a complete Toy Story feel from that, along with it almost looks like there's striped wallpaper in the background that's like lavender and yellow. It looks like a little kid's room.
Boy, this is where, once again, we differ, because that's one of my worst panels. The Falcon is washed out, doesn't look like the Falcon. I guess it's the Falcon.
Uh-huh.
And with that wallpaper in the background, yeah. And you know what? Had they put those little bases on the Green Army soldiers, so you know when they walk around, they don't really walk, they just gotta slide.
Yeah.
Then it's like, okay, this issue is the most awesome entry in the Star Wars universe, had they done that.
Okay, well, I do like the composition of this particular panel because you got Han right in the middle, and the Stormtroopers are all around him, kind of pointing their blasters at him, so you got a great focal point. This would have made a better cover for this issue.
No, it wouldn't have. Nope.
Yep.
Mm-mm.
Yep.
Mm-mm.
Oh.
Oh, boy. All right, now, like we did in the last episode of Classic Marvel Star Wars Comics, I got out my original issue of this comic.
Oh.
Yes, I put on my white gloves,
Uh-huh.
go into the hermetically sealed room, open up the Mylar bag, easily slip it out with a pair of tweezers, open it up to the page that has the Star Wars letter column.
Oh.
And this is where readers can write into the Classic Marvel Star Wars Comics line back in 1978, and a couple of letters would be printed, and there'd be answers to them. So I went through the letters submitted, and,
Yes.
And I want to go over this one right here.
Should I read it?
Go ahead.
Okay. Dear folks, I recently read Star Wars number 15. The art was good as usual, but on page 17, panel 3, Luke says he couldn't swim, and you show that Princess Leia could. If Archie had read the new book containing the adventures of Luke Skywalker, Splinter of the Mind's Eye, he would have discovered differently. In the book, the princess couldn't swim, but Luke could. Just thought I'd pass it along. And this is from Steve Golden from 1144 Broadway Boulevard, Kenhorst, Reading, Pennsylvania, 19607.
So if anyone wants to write to Steve Golden, go right ahead.
Yeah.
He's not on Facebook, because I looked him up. Not on there.
That's awesome.
See, even back then, fans were being nitpicky.
Oh, heck yeah.
This is not the first time I've ever heard this argument.
Uh-huh.
Now, Marvel did respond by saying that by the time they had read Splinter of the Mind's Eye, it was too late to retcon what they had done.
Did they actually use the name Redcon?
No.
Oh, okay.
Uh-uh.
You're just paraphrasing.
Yeah. And then put a challenge out to Marvel readers and Star Wars fandom to see if they could ball them out of this mess. And yes, that's exactly what they wrote.
Wow.
And so they're asking readers, okay, readers, it just is what it is, but we want to see what you can come up with.
That's funny.
Basically, it was a mistake.
Oh.
So deal with it.
Right.
I can see why Archie Goodwin thought, okay, we can't have Luke swim because he's from Tatooine. They don't have water on Tatooine.
The desert planet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Luke didn't even know what a duck was.
Well, there you go right there. Why didn't Marvel just put that out there?
Mm-hmm.
Now, as we're going along in these future issues, I'll keep track of this because I want to see what the Star Wars fandom comes up with back in 1978.
I would love that.
Now, there is a very, very, very easy way to retcon this and pretty much any other inconsistency. Multiverse!
But that's part of Marvel. Not necessarily Star Wars, right?
Well, no, not necessarily. Like Planet of the Apes have got multiverses. It's an easy way to retcon anything.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us on Classic Marvel Star Wars Comics, where we just went through Star Wars number 19,
The Ultimate Gamble.
We'll see everyone back for issue number 20, titled
Death Game.
not Endgame. Now, will they stick with that title? Stay tuned and find out. We want to thank Rob Dellinger for this awesome music for classic Marvel Star Wars comics. And if you want to check him out, please go to robdellinger.com. And he has his own band. He's touring. So just make sure that you check out robdellinger.com or his Facebook page and look at the events right there.
Yeah, name of his band, Alpha Rhythm Kings.
Awesome.
Yes. Go to one of his concerts or one of his appearances and just yell out, Skywalker of the Week! Things we want to share!
Yay.
He loves that, trust me.
Now, please check out all the rest of the shows on the Skywalking Network, including the Culture Popcast, Sabers and Spells, and Skywalking Through Neverland. You can find us all at skywalkingthroughneverland.com. You can also tweet us. We are at SkywalkingPod. We are also on Instagram as at SkywalkingPod. You can email us, share at skywalkingthroughneverland.com. And we are also on Facebook. So search Facebook for Skywalking Through Neverland. And if the group pops up, you can request to join. And then make sure you answer those questions that pop up. And then you too can be part of our classic Marvel Star Wars Comics episodes, because we ask you all these questions. So, for classic Marvel Star Wars Comics, this is Sarah.
And this is Richard saying,
Forp!
look at that Wookiee butt!
Aww.
All right, Skywalkers. Wait, Eric
Woo!
Morris says, I mean, look at Luke and his cousin Mark, who met the Muppets.
Aw.
Yeah, multiverse.
Yeah.
Teaming up Luke Skywalker, Howard the Duck.
Yay.
Awesome. Dagobah is covered in water. Yeah, Luke swam there.
I think he learned how to swim by then. All right, so then we cut to Greyshade, who is the Senator of the Wheel, and his only care is finding his top adversary in the Senate, Princess Leia.
Adversary.
What did I say?
Adversary.
Adversary?
Don't say, I can't say vehemently if you can't say adversary.
Adversary.
Say what is it? What is it?
Adversary.
There you go.
La
See?
Cienega.
I'm out. I'm out.